Recently, I was very surprised when one of the members of our Kumekucha Telegram forum got very confused over some revelations online related to the Mavoko grabbed land. They just couldn't understand. They couldn't wrap their minds around the fact that some very important people in Kenya, very connected people in Kenya, your favorite politicians, some of you, were behind the grabbing of land that belongs to East African Portland Cement, and were therefore by extension responsible for what ended up happening. The demolition, very painful, of houses built by ordinary, hard-working, struggling Kenyans. They couldn't just wrap their minds around that fact. They couldn't believe it. And this development woke me up to the fact that many of us on this channel are young, which is good. We were not there during the 90s and 80s to see what was unfolding in Kenya. We do not have a history of what happens to politicians who worship money, and use government to earn billions, trillions at the expense of long-suffering Kenyans, looting money from the government treasury through these corrupt deals, so that small dispensary somewhere fails to have some basic medicine, basic facilities that leads to death, which means that money that politician has, which we all admire very much, is actually blood money. Okay? I will not waste your time and mine trying to convince you of the spiritual truth that how you earn your money is much more important than how much money you earn, no matter what the amount is. But in most instances, large fortunes are usually blood money. How you earn your money is much more important, terribly important, than how much money you have. Please do your research. And I realize nachezea mbuzi guitar because we Kenyans worship money. Money is the most important thing. Okay? More important than even God Almighty. That is the truth. But a recent controversy that has attracted a lot of attention, especially from older Kenyans, is very instructive and illustrates many things we need to be aware of, so that we even start to understand what really happened at Mavoko. By the way, a very huge percentage of our political class were involved in one way or the other with Mavoko. Okay? That's the truth. What we'll have in the end are just scapegoats. But the main movers and shakers hawataguzwa. Okay? Anyway, this latest controversy I'm talking about is the news that one of the daughters of one of the richest people the Republic of Kenya has ever seen, the late Nicholas Kipiator Biwott, one of his daughters has rejected her inheritance. She's listed as one of the beneficiaries of Biwott's colossal, gigantic estate. Just to give you a taste of it, a Nigerian magazine, Venture Financial, once listed Biwott in the list of top 50 billionaires in Africa and put his net worth at about US, wait for this one, US dollars 1 billion. Not Kenya shillings, US dollars 1 billion. This story of Biwotts' daughter rejecting her inheritance attracted my attention greatly. And I realized there is a lot of information Kenyans don't have. Because they admire this daughter of Nicholas Biwott without knowing the full story of what really went down then. And of course that is history. And history bores Kenyans until it becomes very critical and vital for people to understand something that is unfolding at the moment. And that is why I'm sure I now have your attention, even as I go into history briefly. This is the story. The Biwotts' daughter mentioned is called Rita Marsham. She is the wife of a man called Rita Field Marsham. Now, Bwana Marsham was mentioned in the Kroll report. Now, what I'm going to do, I'll put a link in the comments area, to that very old Kumekucha article I did, investigative piece, so that you get the full gory details. Okay? But for now, let me answer another mystery that I'm sure is on the minds of many Kenyans. Rita Marsham looks like a mzungu. So how is she Biwotts' daughter? Now, the late Kipyator Biwott had many wives. The exact number is not known. And I'm not kidding. And one of his wives was Israeli. And Rita is the result of that union. And the real story here is that the inheritance within the borders of Kenya being rejected by one of the beneficiaries is only a small drop in the ocean, a tiny fraction of Mr. Biwott's net worth. Let me explain. And this way there should be a lesson for current Kenyan politicians who have made a lot of money from public coffers, who are right now making a lot of money from government, that the honeymoon usually comes to an end, and it does not end well. Anyway, on to this story. Now, immediately after KANU fell from power in December 2002, Bwana Nicholas Biwott still retained his parliamentary seat of Keyo South, so he was still in parliament. Now, of course, I don't need to remind you that one of the major reasons some people go into politics and remain in politics is to protect their wealth. But let's proceed. But even then, Bwana Biwott, alongside former President Daniel Toroitich arap Moi, started to do something very interesting. They started transferring their assets away from the country called Kenya. That's the first thing. And also they started transferring their assets and wealth away from the usual countries, especially countries like Switzerland, whose laws were changing at that time. In the old days, if you put your money in Switzerland, no matter how you earned it, nobody would touch it. Okay? But then at that time, things were beginning to change. So there was a lot of transfer of assets all over the world. Most of Moi's colossal assets went into very interesting countries, like Namibia, for instance. You can read more details in that article I mentioned. And then the ill-fated 2007 general elections came along. And that was when Nicholas Biwott lost his Keyo South parliamentary seat. Indeed, he lost to a nobody, a Bwana Jackson Kiptanui Kiplagat, who garnered 30,380 votes against Biwott's 9,483. Now, there are a lot of things happening at around that time. So no newspaper, as far as I know, indeed nobody noticed that something very significant had happened after those elections. For the first time since Biwott entered politics, he was not in parliament. And indeed, those 2007 elections were very interesting, because the whole of Rift Valley was orange. ODM. Yep. Raila Odinga's ODM swept the whole of the Rift Valley. Yeah, and I believe this Jackson Kiptanui Kiplagat swept away legendary, powerful Biwott with the ODM wave in the Rift Valley at the time. And so Biwott's activities of transferring assets hastened. And according to my investigative article at that time, the one I'm referring you to, those assets ended up in a very strange country. Yeah, not what you'd expect. And the name of that country is Canada. Now, guess what nationality this Bwana Marsham is? Is Canadian. In other words, Biwott's huge financial empire at that time, yeah, we're talking about 2008, was already in the hands of Charles Marsham, okay, husband to Rita Marsham. Kwa hivyo ndugu zanguni na madada, jijazie. I'm also aware that many Kenyans don't know about Biwott's background. Biwott started off in the intelligence community, yeah, and he was a personal assistant to a man called Bruce Mackenzie, who was in Kenya's first cabinet. And in retrospect, that should never have happened. Why? Because we now know that Bwana Mackenzie, even at the time, was a key intelligence officer for at least 3 major international intelligence organizations, including the Mossad, the British intelligence, and even the South African intelligence. And his lifestyle reflected that background. Biwott in all his life never owned a mobile phone. He used to borrow phones to make calls, and then he'd promptly delete the call he had just made. Biwott's security detail was very elaborate, yeah, usually made up of Israeli commandos. And I can go on and on and on. But then, as a good book tells us very clearly, what point is there in gaining the whole world but losing your soul? Kuna haja gani, if I can talk like the late Kibaki, kuna haja gani? What's the point? What's the point in worshipping money? Yeah, something that you leave here on earth. You will not live with a single cent, even as you make wananchi suffer, even as you raid public coffers. I don't know if that lesson can ever reach the UDA High Command currently. I don't know. Please allow me yet again to remind you about my latest audiobook. Yeah, The Ruto Kenyans Will Never Know. It is available for only $24.55. You can see details on your screens right now, or Kenya shillings 2,455. Please rush and take advantage of this opportunity so that you can get your hands on this very valuable audiobook. It is also available in PDF format as an ebook. Yeah, both formats are available in this package, so that you can get your hands on information that will blow you away. And that is no exaggeration. I believe you have been seeing details on your screens right now. You can act right away. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.